Hey guys, it's Brett. Welcome to Energetic Arts training session and Q&A. Um, I'm excited about this one actually. Um, I'm getting a bit of a buzz energetically. Um, and so I got a feeling this might be a good one. Hopefully I can stay relaxed enough to let all this come through and be articulate enough so it lands in a way that you can accept easily and readily and start to ground. All right, cool. You're here. Great. So if you're here, just acknowledge on the chat feed. If you have any questions at any time, you can throw them in the chat feed. I'll do my best to address them. If they're off track, forgive me if I don't get to them. And then we'll do some exercises today. We'll tinker a little bit and hopefully you get the kind of value that you're seeking out of all this. Um, so I've got a question here. We'll just get straight into it. Like my old martial arts teacher said, okay, let's get start. And so the question is, I'll just read it how it came through. It said, I have a question for the Q&A. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while, just haven't been able to put my finger on it. I notice that when I start to get mad/upset, even at the smallest things, I start to vibrate intensely. My question is, during this vibrating process, during anger and frustration, am I transitioning into a lower frequency vibration? And then it says it becomes really uncontrollable and at times like it's adding to the situation. Does this make sense? Well, if I read the question right, yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. So this is really good because we're going to demystify something. We're going to do a myth bust here, and we're going to tackle this at a few different angles. So first of all, anger could be a lower vibration compared to bliss, for example, or unconditional love, or compassion, or happiness, or whatever. But it's a raw energy. It's unrefined energy. It's a really potent fuel. And it's like, say, if we're talking about, car racing, for example, you've got your baseline fuel, but then you might have nitrous oxide kit in there. And so anger can be like a nitrous. If you're a fan of the old 80s action movies, Rambo would go into rage, and, when everything looked so bleak and he was going to kick the bucket, he'd go into this mad rage and obliterate all the enemies, and he'd come out exhausted but alive. And so sometimes anger can be a really useful energy to help you move through things, but it's not something that you want to stay in because it can be corrosive to your system. And it's definitely something you don't want to act on if it's going to be harmful to people, right? So the other side of this is that, remember, life is really, even though it doesn't feel like it, is abundant. So whatever you're focusing on, you're going to be adding to. So if something happens in your life and it pisses you off, it throws you off balance, it gets you annoyed and to the point of anger or rage or frustration, then if you dwell there, then you're going to create more anger and more frustration, and that experience is going to expand. Okay. So you don't want to stay with that. You want to redirect that somehow. You want to get it back on track and start moving up the emotional scale. If you don't know what I mean by that, Jerry Nestor Hicks had a great illustration of the emotional scale. And so going from all the way down from fear and rage and anger up through, to boredom, to excitement, love, and, bliss and all that sort of thing. And so if you know where you are on the emotional scale, you can easily move yourself up or bounce yourself back out. And so this is the other thing about you know, that I see a lot happen in the self-help world is that everyone's going for bliss and love and compassion and all the time. They're reaching and striving for a feeling. And it's almost like this addictive thing where if I'm not feeling bliss and love and positivity and happiness all the time, then something is wrong. And I've got to quickly go get another fix to get me back up to this higher vibration. But, you know, once you've been training for a while and you go in and out of all these states, um, up and down, it's not so much about what state you're in. I mean, it's about being more, at least from my perspective, it's about being more precise in selecting and navigating your way to those states. Now, I mentioned in a video the other day about the structure of reality moving from, say, this square platonic solid shape or a, you know, triangle or a circle to something that's hexagonal. And it's really interesting because I'm in LA here and I'm in a room that I'm not really familiar with, because hopefully this has got a good strong internet connection where not only you get my voice coming through, but you see my body language expressing what I'm saying too, and you can get the full transmission of this this state of being. And I've got a mouse pad here, and I'll hold it up for you. Hopefully you can see the hexagonal pattern that looks like a honeycomb. And so if we looked at this as an illustration of how reality has shifted from this third dimensional box type of reality, where if you want to get from here to there, then you have to go down and then across, or across and then down. And there's only like limited ways you can get through, like moving pieces on the chessboard. With this new structure, this new hexagonal structure, you can sort of move easily from here to there. You don't, or, you know, you've got multiple pathways to there. And sometimes these seemingly negative emotions that you're feeling are stepping stones to get you through, like shortcuts. Okay. Now, I had a friend once who I was training with really extensively and intently a lot of the time, sometimes a bit too intense. You know, maybe we should have chilled out a little bit more and taken our time and not gotten so worked up over things. But it happens, you know, that's part of the human experience, and that's part of grounding this here. And if you were just sort of manifesting your dreams instantly all the time with no contrast, no stress to help you grow, then you'd kind of be like this spoiled little prince that just gets everything all the time and doesn't appreciate anything and has no respect for anything that shows up in their life, right? As an example. But my friend was traveling on a plane, and I hadn't seen him for months. And anyway, we caught up one time, and he had to take a plane to and travel, you know, train, plane, automobile sort of thing to get to meet up with me on this holiday. And I said, oh, you know, how was your trip? And he says, man, I was appalled with some of the people's behavior in the queue. You know, they were getting so upset and stressed out because they had to wait 5 minutes for the plane because it was delayed. And because we'd done a lot of this training, he says, you know, when you're in those moments, do something with your frickin' mind, you know. And so I'm not trying to, you know, put anyone down here. I'm just saying, you know, it's sometimes it's frustrating when you see people just, you know, going through the motions and just triggering program after program after program after program, while here you are doing all this training and doing your best to start to correct and tweak all these things to get yourself into these different states of mind where you feel like you're doing a whole lot of work, but other people You know, they just don't seem to really give a shit. And that can be frustrating and annoying and make you angry at times. So, you know, that's all fair enough. Like, I can understand that if that's in the context of the question. But once we've sort of acknowledged that and we've been through that, um, then you've been presented. You can realize really quickly that you've been presented with a real gift, because if these people, like the people waiting in the queue, you know, at the slightest little thing, like a 10-minute delay for a flight, fly off the handle, or if they haven't got a good internet connection, they go crazy, or if they're stuck in traffic, they have road rage. We've all suffered from those things. But when we know that this has happened before and it's likely to happen again, and we're not going to do anything to change that, you know, then that's on us. Okay. So once these things happen, and they're going to happen continuously, is that instead of trying to avoid these things or get down on yourself and beat up on yourself when you get affected by them, accept that it's going to happen. You go, okay, it's going to happen. I'm going to get pissed off. I'm going to get frustrated. Things are going to trigger and push my buttons, and I'm going to feel this energy going through me, and I'm going to feel like I'm going to go nuclear and explode. And I don't want to do that. Okay, fair enough. Don't beat yourself up when you do, because it's going to happen. And even as you go up the scales and you become enlightened, um, you're going to be presented with similar things at different scales to see if you can keep strengthening yourself and keep going beyond your past, and keep evolving and keep going. Because remember, we're in an infinite universe, right? Or at least that's the belief. We're in a multiverse. We can go from one area to the reality to another, you know, and all the way back again, and all over the place. And it's not so much about where we're going. It's about, you know, navigating those states and moving in and out of them and being okay with all of them. All right. It's not like you get to this point where you're enlightened now, and it's like at the buffet, and buffet of life and all these emotions and these thoughts, and you go, you know what, like a king, these are good and these are bad. Let's just remove all these from the table and only let these ones in, because that's not real. That's not life. It's not grounded, right? What you want to be doing is being okay with all of it, and go, well, I can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and I really like this and I don't like that so much, but I know it's good for me, so I'll take a little bit of it and let my system adjust to it and all that sort of stuff. And so, you know, navigating through these emotions, when they come up, using them as the tools to be able to train. You know, you need some kind of stimulus to know where you're at and what's still running in the background. You don't want to be one of these people that's in line at the airport that's flipping their lid over a 10-minute delay, totally unconscious that they're reacting to a build-up of a program that they don't know how it got there, what triggers it, how long it goes for, why it happens, or what to do about it, or what the alternatives are. When these things happen, it's like an administrator on a computer system. When a bug turns up and it throws your system out and you get an error message, you don't just want to hit X because you don't like the look of that message on your screen. You want to find out what's going on, and then you want to go in deeper into the programming, and you want to work out what it is. And if it's useful to you, then it stays there. And if it's unuseful to you, you can do something with it. Okay. But states like emotions like anger and frustration, they're not necessarily negative. They're indicators of things that are bringing you out of your alignment, okay, or showing you unconscious programming that you want to change. speaking senses is on the right track. And so what we're going to do is going to give you a little bit of an illustration of an exercise of a training training system and martial arts. And then we're going to do something similar with our mind. And so just start again, and just bring it back to center. Now, sometimes the energy gets so intense or the disruption is so much that you can't just do a relaxing breath. I'll get into breath patterns in the future webinar, future training session, but there's 4 basic breath patterns according to the Systema system. You know, you've got a relaxed breath, a clearing breath, a burst breath, and a blast breath. And these are all designed to move energy out of the system quickly. All right, so the idea behind this exercise is to find a nice relaxed state where you're nice and calm. Sometimes it's not just a matter of, sometimes you're going to need to breathe and get ahead of the tension. Sometimes you want to tense the body and then relax.